So for everyone who's joining in right now, obviously thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to mention this a couple times just because I didn't get any volunteers, which doesn't surprise me because no one wants to be embarrassed in public. But Jordan and I are willing to do a complete listing teardown of anyone who wants to volunteer their listing. So towards the end of this webinar, I'll see if we can't pull up someone's listing and actually go through it for you. If you think it's great, then perfect. We'll pull it up and be like, yeah, this is great. You did a good job. You're probably killing it. Or we're just going to straight up tell you like, hey, reach out to one of us.
yeah. We need to talk. Yeah. I mean, most likely, there's going to be good stuff. There's going to be some stuff to tweak. So
yeah. Plus, there, as we get into this, we'll definitely discuss like some of it's up for speculation, some of it's up for like what we think the Amazon algorithm actually looks for versus what it really does.
Absolutely.
There's definitely been some stuff that they actually did publicize, and then there's stuff that obviously they didn't. But so we'll dig through optimizing everyone's listings. Let's do a little intro, Jordan, if you want to kick this off.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm Jordan Turley. I am the director of marketing at Nozani. We're an Amazon optimization agency. So Amazon's our bread and butter. We do optimize for some other marketplaces, but heavy on Amazon for sure. So I personally have helped several brands scale on Amazon specifically to 7+ figures. I'm a current Amazon seller, so it's fun to talk the talk, but I love walking the walk as well. And I don't talk about really any strategies or these hacks that I haven't actually done and proven myself. So I pride myself in being a marketplace strategy expert, and married to my beautiful wife Bethany, and a father of 2 little boys, huge soccer fan, and closet musician. So
nice. Andrew Maffetone. I always put Maff because it's just too long and it won't fit on this slide. I'm director of marketing and operations here at Seller's Choice. We're full service e-commerce for on and off Amazon, but we started on Amazon. CEO as a seller. I have been in and out of the industry for a little bit over a decade now. Started in Amazon and I'm still in Amazon. Not a seller myself. Love marketing. Can't stand operations, so I never wanted to, that's why I never got into it.
What are you doing, man?
I just fulfillment and inventory, like I'm not touching that. But also married, also closet musician, drummer.
Sweet, man. Let's collab one day, maybe.
Yeah, no kids though. So I'll have a little more free time than you will, but
yeah.
But all right, so let's get into this. So again, I had mentioned feel free to send over questions as we go through this webinar. I'm kind of assuming we're gonna get a lot of questions, a lot of I'm doing this, why did you say that this is wrong, or vice versa. So we're gonna try and get to as many questions as possible. I also mentioned earlier, if you're willing to let us tear your listing apart live, I will pull that thing up and we'll see what we can do. It's totally up to you. And then at the end, of course, Jordan and I both have some fun stuff to give you guys just as a little thank you for sticking around. Plus, I will have all the slides up at the on a slide share. I'll send it out in an email. We'll get the YouTube video up and everything too, so everyone can revert back to this later. You don't have to worry about if you miss a note or something that you wanted to take. But think so if you're here, obviously you're most likely an Amazon seller, or you're thinking about being one maybe. But maybe you have a conversion rate issue, maybe you have a BSR issue. My favorite thing I hear like all the time, like looking to get to page 1, which is always a very interesting response, which I'm sure we'll get into as well. There's been some speculation on what's indexed, what's not, what your structure should be, variations, child listings, things like that. So we'll get into that. I personally have been doing listing optimization for some massive sellers over the years, well into 8 figures. So I'll show you guys kind of what we do for them and what's helped them, just so that you can kind of start prepping out that. And then of course, because you've joined us, chances are you're just flat out, awesome. So we'll get into that. So, all right. So let's get started. Again, if you have questions along the way, we'll try and make sure we keep this as interactive as possible. So feel free to send those questions in and we'll try to get to them. Either Jordan and I, or obviously we'll try to answer them as best we can here. So everything we're going to cover, we're going to try and go through every aspect of the listing possible from, from the top to the bottom. So we'll go over the structure of everything, obviously all the back end stuff as well, how we're doing keyword research, what titles look like, bullet points, product descriptions, obviously the imagery. We'll even touch on enhanced brand content. And if we have some time, I'll see if we can't dive into kind of how we deal with reviews and things like that too. But we'll start off at the top.
Cool.
So structure.
Sorry, really quick.
Yeah.
I just want to mention, as we're kind of going through all these slides, these sections, and talking about, how to optimize everything. Just keep in mind that on Amazon, there are basically 3 types of buyers that are most common. And we've actually had, people at Amazon kind of confirm this, right? So there's basically, you have your head of household, mom or dad looking to get a great deal, pinch some pennies, right? The best, option for their family. You have your product researcher that's actually gonna maybe read your content, which not a lot of people do, and we'll get into that, right? But you have people who are researching product, comparing prices, reading your reviews, and then you have your impulse buyer. So as we go through this, just keep that in mind, and just understand that you have to talk to kind of all 3 of these buyers and optimize in every section of your Amazon listing to kind of meet the needs of all 3, right? Because such a huge chunk fall into these 3. So anyway, just something to keep in mind, and yeah, let's hit it.
All right. So variations, I'm going to touch on variations real quick and how we kind of structure stuff. At the same time, I'm actually going to send out a poll. If you know your actual conversion rate of your Amazon listing, would love to know what everyone's conversion rate's floating around. I get this question a lot about what's a good conversion rate. And, we get a lot of questions like that, what's a good number for this? What's a good number for that? What should I be targeting? Things like that. And to be honest, like from what I've seen, there's no real good answer there. There's some that kind of fluctuate and, what we think it should be, what you want it to be, of course, but every category is different. Every product is different. Every every listing is different. Reviews are always different. Like you're going to get a huge differentiation on conversion rate out there. So I just sent out a poll. Everyone should kind of see that thing. So it looks like right now, majority of people don't know, which I kind of suspected, which is why I put that as an option there. Big number you should be looking at. Big number.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're doing PPC stuff, especially, chances are, if you're spending a lot, but you just seemed like you're not converting, chances are you have a conversion rate problem. So if you have a high click-through rate, that means you're hitting the right traffic, but for some reason they're not buying. So that probably is a listing problem. So that's kind of why we want to dig into this. Let's see if we'll close this poll out. So I don't know if you guys can actually see the results or not. I haven't been on the other side of one of these in a while, but so 45% of you don't know. 9% 21 to 50. So it depends on your category, as I had mentioned, or obviously as your product. I've been in several situations where I've had sellers in the 30, 40, 50 range before. Those are typically consumables. So CEO of ours actually has a business of his own. One of the things he sells is vacuum filters. You're not shopping around for vacuum filters. If you need one, that's the one I need. Great, I'm buying it. So your conversion rate's typically much higher. The 11 to 20, that's usually about that nice pocket you want to be in if you're selling really anything else. 5 to 10, you might want to look into that. 9% or less, definitely want to look into that one, unless you're such a wildly differentiated product that people are just kind of clicking in to see what it is, in which case we can kind of get into branding and stuff. But so one of the things that we had recently done, so this slide that I have up here, this is a client of ours we actually worked with, where he sells collegiate apparel, massive guy, sells stuff all over Amazon. The issue he's having is like, so this Harvard t-shirt, he would sell Harvard t-shirt in maroon, in small, medium, large, extra large. That would be one listing. Then he would have another one for, University of Florida, and it would be the same thing. And we started to say, like, yeah, it makes sense if you're searching for University of Florida, but why don't you combine them all? What if you thought it was the right college and it's not, or you want to look at what other colleges you offer, anything like that? So we said, like, hey, let's combine all these. So we combined all the colleges. You can see that was one of the things that we have over there off to the side that's all highlighted. So basically what we did is we combined them all. We finished that project with the help of his team because it was a massive project. But we finished that project and he just about 3x'd in like a month. Just a matter of huge conversion rate increasing. Shoppers basically take it as, okay, these are my options. I'm going to shop here, as opposed to leaving your listing and going to search again. We did this for another seller recently and had almost the exact same results. It's simplicity of, if the buyer doesn't have what they want or isn't seeing what they want, and they're not too satisfied with what they're seeing, they're going to leave and go search again, in which case you now run another risk of them not finding the size that they want or anything like that, and they potentially land on a competitor's page. So a lot of sellers, we find, love the real estate game of, yeah, but if I have all these listings, all this is going to help. If you combine the listings, not only is it a higher conversion rate for your consumer, but all of your reviews get combined. So all the reviews he had, which is why he's at 683, they were not at that height when he had them all separated out. So now every single one of these shirts now has a better conversion rate ranking, a better review ranking. They're all coupled into the same listing, and he had a huge increase. And a lot of sellers we've done this for recently have done this because what we've noticed is that Amazon caters so much to the consumer that if you stop worrying so much about the algorithm and actually worry more about the consumer and how their experience is, in turn, you're actually going to end up getting coupled up under the algorithm.
Yeah, love it, exactly. And I mean, just to kind of mimic that, Amazon absolutely cares more about the customer experience than really anything else, right? So if you imagine walking into a retail store, right, you see these shirts, for example, some college shirts, right? And you walk up, to the table that the shirt's laid out on, you're going to see all the variations, for example, in color in that shirt right next to each other, right? There's not going to be one on one table, and then across the store, there's going to be, the different color, right? And so basically replicating an in-store retail experience is what grants your customer the best customer experience in Amazon, and that's absolutely what they care about. So variations are key. I love that you guys here made it very apparent in the title that there are variations, right? It says right on the title, multiple teams. So somebody knows, if they're just generally looking for college shirts, right, that they're going to be able to see a bunch of different NCAA teams and shirts within that listing. And then each listing is also optimized at the child level, meaning you have unique lifestyle images, unique content per child variation. That's key, right? If you have a blue sleeping bag and a red sleeping bag, for example, you want your lifestyle images to show what actual variation that customer is looking at, rather than just having the same lifestyle images of the one color underneath the red bag, right? So yeah, so that's definitely super important to keep in mind.
Yeah. So I kind of touched on this, the real estate game, like that was a big problem. I tried to, if I took an example of, hey, don't do this, I tried to blur out the name in case they happen to attend this webinar. But so it's not a real estate game. You'll notice neither of these have any reviews. So combining them is not going to do too much, but this was just an example I pulled up. But combining everything, letting everything, like, especially if you have like a bulk option. So if you have a 1-pack, a 2-pack, or a 3-pack, and they go to buy and they see that little unit price is like, let's not use this as an example. Let's say it's like, vitamins or something, and it's like 47 cents per unit. And then the next tier over is like, it's down to like 39 cents per unit, and it's a vitamin, like, I'll go 60 days with it. And now all of a sudden, not only is your conversion rate increasing, but so is your average order value. So even if you start offering bulk options and you want to do, 1, 2, 3 packs or even more, it's better to actually combine them all and give the option there. Show the consumer the option to, hey, it's basically an upsell on Amazon. It gives you the opportunity to sell a little bit more and make a little extra money off it. Yep. So keyword research. This one's always really interesting. Every time I touch on this, everyone's like, that's not how you do it, and that's not what it is, and blah, blah. I'm like, look, I've been doing this for a while. This is what works for me. Everyone's got their own theory. So this is what I put in. If you don't like it, you don't have to do it. So if you're doing PPC, pull out the search term report. That one's obvious. That one seems pretty straightforward to me, at least. If you have existing data, use it. So we use this suggestion expander. So if you have a product that, you obviously it's a main product. So like I'm going to use this as an example probably all day. But so like I have a Steelers service, right? So I'm going to plug into Amazon Steelers service. And I'm going to use this Amazon suggestion expander, and it's going to show it's a Chrome extension. So basically what it'll do is it's going to show me every type of variation that someone has searched this for. So maybe like gold Steelers Tervis with lid. Like I'm going to see all those, and I'm going to go, okay, I'm going to take all this information and I'm going to pull this and I'm going to use this information. If you're using it for PPC, you're going to want to use all of that. If you're using it obviously to optimize your listing, you're going to want to make sure you go after some of the top ones. So then how do you figure out the top ones? I like merchant words. I've been using them for a while now. Haven't really had anyone with that I think is this easy. So we take some of those top ones, we take a majority of those, plug them into merchant words, see what the search volume is, and start utilizing like, okay, these are some of the top ones that we're going after. You're still going to have to continue to test stuff. So, okay, now you have, these are some of the top search terms with the most volume. So now let's plug these back into Amazon, and yet let's use something like Unicorn Smasher or Jungle Scout to see what's the top product showing for that keyword right now, and what's the estimated revenue, because I still don't believe that these are that accurate. They're usually wildly off, so I try to get a number in the middle there. But so what product is showing? Now, can I compete with that guy? Is he very different? Is it not different and he's just got a ton of reviews and you're never going to catch him? So then okay, let's look at another keyword. Like, okay, this one, let's try this. Who's my competition here? Who am I going after? I'm really not a fan of, like for this, like gold Steelers Tervis, like, okay, it's a little bit longer tail, but if I did like Steelers Cup, like I'm going to be fighting with so many people for space there. Go after those long tail ones and try to show there and own the more niche or niche, whichever you prefer, market, that, you're not struggling so much and you can start getting sales right off the bat. So we try to combine all that data into like one spreadsheet, is kind of like how we do this here. And we kind of look at it like, okay, this one's working the best. This one's working the best. Let's try these for a while. Then you let it sit and you say like, okay, it's working, it's not working. Or if you're running PPC, you let that data start to teach you if it's a little bit different. So typically what we'll do is once a month or so, like we'll pull another search term report. We'll go, okay, what is the top keyword we're converting for right now? Because this is what people are searching that actually like our product. So I'm going to go back into my listing and I'm going to make sure that keyword is as prevalent as possible so that they know this is exactly what you just searched. So Jordan, I'd love to know what your approach is.
Yeah, honestly, super similar. We love merchant words. We combine that kind of with Scope from Seller Labs as well. And essentially, we do the same thing as far as, using kind of a suggestion expander. So we'll search for, synonyms associated with the product. We'll research kind of the broad product category as well to find kind of these, just similar search results. Again, just like you're saying, that's not what we're going to go and hit head on right in the beginning, because those are usually very competitive, right? So we actually have a formula we have developed here that'll spit us out a number, and the whole, basically we'll look at a keyword, put it through kind of a criteria, and it'll give us kind of a number based off of, is it a high search volume keyword, or medium to high, but also has a low competition, right? Or medium competition, because you go into merchant words, most likely just broadly for your category, that first search term that has the highest volume that comes up is probably going to be the most competitive one. So pretty much exactly what you were saying, Andrew, right? We want to go for some of these long tail ones, get some really quick wins, start generating some revenue, and then long term, obviously, the goal is to rank on page one, right? for those more just broad terms associated with your product. So yeah, man, I mean, it's super similar.
Yeah, definitely that page one thing. I mean, if I had $1 for every time someone told me like, oh, I rank on page one, like, page one for what? Like, do you know, it's literally, it is an Amazon, infinite amount of page ones. There's like, it's ridiculous. And then like, oh, I'm Amazon's choice for my brand name. Be like, I'd hope so. Like, you should be. But Yeah, so keyword, like, so I tried to touch it on some stuff about don't, like this kind of goes with the whole broad thing. Like, I threw an example off to the side here. You don't really need to bother with like plurals or hyphens. Amazon does that stuff automatically. So making sure obviously that they're negative, making sure they're relevant should be pretty obvious, but not you don't want to skip on the long tail stuff. And then again, stressing over reading page one. But the example I had here is like, if you're targeting a shark vacuum or something like that, and one of the keywords you want to keep going after is shark. Like, do you know how many things you're going to show for, like shark toy or shark cup or shark computer case? Like, I'm looking at my desk, but like that's like you got to go long tail. You're not really going to win on the broad stuff. The broad stuff you just happen to show for.
Right.
So we'll get into titles. I actually have a tweak on this one because it's not as updated as I thought it was when I pulled this. So I'll touch on it though. But so I'm a big fan of keeping it simple. I don't like keyword stuffing titles. If your title is a paragraph, chances are the consumer's not going to want to read it. They're going to skim through it and they're going to miss information that maybe you thought they should have. So it is theorized that Amazon only indexes the first 50 characters of your title. So you want to focus like on the beginning stuff, which even if they don't, so let's say it's not true and you actually start to write for the consumer, you're going to lose them after a few words anyway. So make sure you put that stuff front and center. And of course, keeping it main keyword friendly. Like, go after the main stuff. Don't get crazy with like the t-shirt example I had earlier. It wasn't like available in red, blue, green, yellow, gold. Like, that stuff's going to get indexed regardless. You don't need to worry about that. And we're really big fans of writing for the consumer here. If you stop stressing out about the algorithm, you'll actually end up doing better because your conversion rate increases, your consumer's going to purchase more often, which means you're going to get more reviews, and that is what Amazon cares more about than you getting indexed for a keyword. Your main stuff that you're getting rated for is how much does a consumer like you, and then what are the keywords that we're using that as an example for. So shoving the same keyword throughout your title or throughout bullet points, which we'll get into, isn't going to help you. One of the things I touched on in don't, actually, you know what? I'll let you, I forgot you have more. I'll let you touch on this one.
Yeah, I just wanted to expand a little bit on writing for the consumer. So, we're of the same mindset, Andrew over here. Don't keyword stuff. Write with your consumer in mind. If you really understand who your customer is, right, that they're trying to get from, point A to point B. And so it's speaking to kind of the end result and what they are specifically looking for and putting that into your title mixed in with, like Andrew mentioned, your most important keywords. So we're actually pretty much consolidating all titles across all categories now to 80 characters because we've seen Amazon start to implement that across several categories, and we are of the belief that they're going to roll that out basically category wide. So we're just kind of preparing now. But basically, I just want to touch on this. So this was a great example by a very large private label company that you probably all know, but I blurred out the name just in case. But this is for a Bluetooth speaker. And so you can see here they have, obviously huge search volume keywords, Bluetooth speaker, but then they have some really rich adjectives that you can tell they know what their customer is looking for, right? So they have loud stereo sound, they have rich bass, and then the word perfect, right? Perfect for, and then they know their customer wants something portable and they want to reach all devices, iPhone and Samsung being obviously the most popular. So just wanted to expand a little bit on that and give another great example of a company that's doing that well.
Yeah, so the 80 characters thing definitely makes sense. We've had this problem, which this is kind of what I wanted to touch on, because so if you don't have a big brand and you're just selling a product and you're just transacting, so you're only on Amazon, you don't have a brand, that's another problem for another webinar. But you putting your brand name first, if no one's ever heard of you, is just a waste of character space. However, what we've found recently, which the 80 character thing would make sense for a lot of these categories, a good amount of categories we've been working with lately, if we don't add the brand name in the beginning, Amazon is actually doing it themselves. So they're actually indexing, have you added your brand name? No? Okay, I'm going to add it for you. So they've been forcing you to put that in the front. So if they're doing it for 80, that definitely makes sense now for some categories that are doing it, because they're probably under the assumption you have at least 30 characters, give or take, of a brand name, and then the 50 of, you know, whatever else comes after that. Everything else could just potentially be fluff, so they're kind of leaving it alone.
Right.
So for a while I had, you know, don't have your brand name first, because you're wasting characters unless you're, you know, unless you're a larger brand, which would have the asterisk, but now you're kind of being obligated to do it regardless. So maybe just go ahead and do it.
Right. I've tried to not do it, and if Amazon makes you, then I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah,
But 100% agree. Unless you have a brand name that has a high search volume because people know you, yeah, try not to put it there.
Yeah. And then I had my fun example there. But yes, same stuff I mentioned. Don't over keyword stuff. Don't make it crazy long, and don't bother writing for the algorithm. Make it a little more consumer friendly, and just use the keywords that you have to. So product descriptions. So this one's a little interesting too. Some people don't know that if you have enhanced brand content, this still gets indexed. As far as we know, that's still the case. So we definitely don't think you should skip out on it. If you don't have brand registry, go get it. But if you don't, you can still make your product description a little more entertaining than normal. So this one has HTML in it, which I know a good amount of sellers are probably freaking out about right now and are excited to yell at me for it. But let me hold on. You want to obviously address all the important stuff, right? Hopefully you've done this in your bullet points already. Hopefully you've done this, you know, in your imagery, which again we'll touch on. You want to make it consumer centric. You want to keep it simple and straight to the point. Again, so consumer, but the bullet points and making it more readable. So everyone says that HTML is against Amazon's TOS because it's clearly stated in the TOS, which I understand. However, from what I've seen, there are certain things in HTML that are not flagged. So bullet points and bold is arguably all we see, and I think italics too, which this one doesn't have, so I'm not 100%. We usually don't use them, but you're not doing anything too crazy. We're not adding emojis. I'm not like doing big page breaks or anything like that. Like it's just to simplify and break down a little bit. Just like if you were writing a blog post or something like that, you don't want to have a paragraph. Someone's going to look at that and go, oh, I'm not reading that. And they're going to keep scrolling. So you want to keep it short and simple and straight to the point, get right to the good stuff, and then make it interesting. When I say like making it consumer centric, the problem with product descriptions is usually people will start to read them and then they'll go, all right, this is boring, and they'll move on. We typically try to make them really entertaining while still having the keywords in there. So, you know, the Bluetooth speaker you had as an example, like there's things you want to mention about the Bluetooth speaker, but you don't have to just say like it has this and it has that. Like you can literally write a story about like one day Sally was sitting at a park with her Bluetooth speaker that had a 66 foot long, you know, depth in it, or however it's stated, and like actually telling a story, because they'll start to read it and they'll go, what, who's Sally? And they'll keep reading it and they'll go through. In a lot of cases, I've seen listings go viral just because, you know, people share them on social media and be like, I don't care if you buy this or not, but you got to read like this product description. So maybe invest in a content writer to actually like kind of make it a little more entertaining. Let's see. Someone asked a question. So once again, if you have enhanced brand content, you should still make your product description. Yes. Yep. However, if you have it, you don't really have to worry about how it looks because no one can see it. Right. So HTML and stuff like that, not really that important. But yes, I would definitely still fill that out. Let's see. Stuff not to do. Having a ton of copy in one paragraph, which I kind of just mentioned. Links. Oh yeah. Don't mention your website anywhere. Don't mention your email. Don't mention your phone. I've seen a ton of listings get suppressed for stuff like that. That's a pretty standard Amazon TOS rule. Same thing with your bullet points and your images and all that fun stuff. I would definitely not do that. And I've seen a ton with just like one line of copy, like it's just one simple line underneath the product description. And if you're looking at a desktop, if someone's shopping there, which I know most are on mobile now, but if you're looking at a desktop and it's just like one simple line, like to me, like I don't even see it most of the time. I have to like search for where is the product description on this guy's listing. I go, oh, there it is. Okay, I see it now. Right. So that would definitely be something I would say. And then the HTML thing I kind of touched on too. Yep. Backend information. This one's really not that sexy, so I didn't dive into it too much. But like, so if you have the information, like if you have your product in house, get the size, get the weight, get everything that you can possibly think of, get all the information from your manufacturer that you can fill out. Every extra thing that you add is still indexed by Amazon. And if you're adding more and more information, Amazon thinks, hey, they're providing this consumer with every piece of information they need to know for this product. It can, in fact, help you with your rating, whether it's actually like really indexed or if they just count like all these things are filled out. I don't know. But definitely fill out as much as you can. Search terms, you're limited to 250 bytes now, so be careful with that. Platinum keywords. I get a lot of questions about platinum keywords. So it's only indexed if you're a platinum seller. How to become a platinum seller is just, you gotta be huge. So what we usually suggest though is, look forward and be hopeful and fill them out anyway. They're not gonna do anything, but if one day you become a platinum seller, you don't have to go back and redo it. You're in there, go ahead and fill it out. It doesn't hurt anyone. And then, fill out all the target audience stuff, all the intended use stuff, like as much as you can. They're going to give you suggested stuff to fill out. You don't have to do the suggested stuff. You can actually fill out whatever you want. That's kind of personal preference. Actually, in fact, here in the office, it kind of depends on who's doing it, whether they use the ones that are suggested or not. I don't know what your thought is on that, Jordan, but usually like I prefer to just go with the suggested stuff because I know that that's going to be indexed, but sometimes I have seen them filled out custom and it works the same way.
Yeah, I've done it both ways, but I usually tend to just do the suggested piece by Amazon.
Yeah. Don't bother reusing keywords. So get rid of all your synonyms, get rid of as much as you can. That you only have 250 bytes to work with, so make sure that you're using them to as best you can. You don't want to repeat yourself all the time. Don't forget to check everything went through. That one's really standard to me. Like, push your listing live when you're done. Maybe wait 24, 48 hours and then go look at your listing on the front end of Amazon and make sure it actually went. I have people here who are professionals at filling out tickets now because Amazon doesn't, they just don't register some of the stuff you put in the back end. So always double check your stuff. And then don't worry about punctuation or anything like that. But otherwise, the rest is pretty straightforward.
Yeah, just really quick on reusing keywords. There are a lot of sellers that think the more they have a keyword somewhere, like the more Amazon's gonna, give them impressions and help them rank, and it's kind of actually the complete opposite. Spread your net wide. If you've already used a keyword on the front end, don't use it on the back end. In fact, Amazon has told us, and we don't see that this is actually happening in most cases, but what we've been told is that there's a chance that a keyword could be canceled out and not be indexed if it's using the back end and the front end. Again, does it actually happen? Not always, not usually even, but just don't reuse keywords. There's really no need. If it's in your front end, that's more than enough. So
yeah, I would imagine they have to have some kind of duplicate content thing in place that, for your speaker example, if I just put Bluetooth in the back end 50 times and then put it on the front and then on the back, it's not going to help me any. Like I mentioned earlier, the algorithm's more catered towards conversions and reviews than it is, what keywords you put.
How many times you put it.
Yeah, it's images. This one's a little more sexy, so this one's kind of more fun. So high definition, white background. If you can, 3D renderings are always great. Otherwise, get some awesome photography. Lifestyle images, that one, those are all kind of standard for the most part. The call outs and the infographics are the interesting one. I come across a lot of listings where it's just pictures, and although that's great, but no one's reading your really long title. No one's reading your bullet points, especially if you made those into paragraphs, which we've seen a lot, which I thought we should have hit by now. I hope I didn't miss it.
We might have, actually.
Did I miss it? Did I skip over?
In my deck, they came before product description, but we can head back.
Oh, man. All right, we're going to come back. I'll do images and I'll go back to I don't know how that happened. So no one's going to read the bullet points. Your average consumer, what we've tried to instill here is the average consumer is not stupid. The average consumer is just lazy. So they don't want to read everything, which is true. I don't want to read half the stuff either. So even when I shop on Amazon, I just look at the pictures, I see what it is, I go, great. And I start scrolling down to the reviews. If there's enhanced brand content, you're going to catch me with more visual stuff. So that's why it helps with conversion rates, which is why we'll get into that. But everyone's just reading the images. So if there's important stuff that you need to get across about your product, so if it's a shirt and you want to make sure like 100% cotton or something like that, and you need to get through that, put it in your imagery. All your secondary images you can add or anything you want, excluding like your website and your email and phone number and all that fun stuff. But call outs, infographics, especially for sizing, things like that, really important. You have, what is it? I forgot how many images you can have now, but you have a ton of images you can work with. So do as many as you can. You have work them through. They have to be mobile friendly. Make sure they're mobile friendly. That one is pretty obvious. I think it's a majority of people shop on mobile. If not, they start on mobile and then move over to desktop. So even though you got a bunch of sales on desktop, they may have actually started on mobile. So you have to make sure it's as mobile friendly as possible. And now you have video, which is great. If you have brand registry and you go into the enhanced brand content area, you can add a video, which actually goes into your main listing images, not the enhanced brand content. I don't know why they put it in there, but they did. So this was just a few examples of clients we had done before. Definitely have to make sure that that first image is a white background. I know that there's a lot of sellers out there that have lifestyle images as the first picture and they haven't been suppressed yet or they haven't gotten flagged. I've definitely seen some that have, and I've definitely seen some that haven't. They tell you it's against the terms of service. Maybe it's dependent on how many sales you're getting in, or it could be dependent on PPC, things like that. But in reality, everything we know, it needs to be a white background for the first image. The rest, have fun.
Do what you want. Yep.
And I know you got one in here too, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I do. So I just want to expand a little bit more on lifestyle images and infographics. So make sure that you know, obviously, first step is know who your customer is, right? And then in your lifestyle images, show who your target customer or customers are, right? I mean, I've seen products. So here's an example. We've got the Warrior Blend example. That's a good example. Terracuda, which is an infographic we did, and then this center one of the watch I put on as a bad example. So this is I just typed in, sport watch on Amazon, right? So this is supposed to be, a sport watch. It's waterproof, for, triathletes, things like that. And the only lifestyle image with like a person in it was like, he's wearing a suit, right? Which might be great for one lifestyle image showing that, it's a sport watch, but it also looks good, in a classy environment. But there was no like sporty lifestyle image at all. And so, just touching again on mobile, like all people see in the Amazon app is basically your title, price, images, and reviews. So this is where you speak to your customers and you just want to, try to get them to imagine using your product as best as you can through imagery, and then video is obviously going to be huge. So Warrior Blend, great example, right? This girl doing yoga, hits a portion of their target market very well. It's a plant-based vegan protein. The two, generally speaking, kind of go hand in hand. And then, this infographic, if, as Andrew mentioned, if you need to get through specific benefits and selling points, the consumer is going to see it in your images. They're not going to, go down and read a massive paragraph that you've written in your product description. So on Amazon, images sell your product. Your copy really doesn't. Words don't. So if you're going to use words, throw them in your images.
Yeah. Don't ton of copy in there. You can actually just touch on that. Adding your website and phone and email, don't do that. Definitely against Amazon's rules. Small or like low definition. So by small, I mean like when you obviously you have the images off to the side, and if you click on it, it expands it. If you have a small image, like pixel size small, and it opens up, it's going to really frustrate the consumer if they open it up and like, great, zooming in did nothing for me. Poor grammar, that one's my favorite. Like coming across like, hey, that's not how you use there. But like stuff like that, because those are usually glaring. And then limited images, like having one or two image, like no, get some images in there. You should be at least like 6 or 7 usually, depending on what your product is. But here, let me I don't know how I did this, so we're gonna scroll back. We're gonna go over bullet points real quick. So include your most relevant keywords, get right at it. Short, readable phrases and fragments. Like don't do a paragraph for each bullet point. It's just gonna ignore, the consumer's gonna ignore it. They're not gonna read it. And then if your imagery is not optimized, like we just touched on, they're not gonna read that either. So usually we try to limit the length. Address the most important stuff. I personally am not a fan of the capital letters at the beginning. And I think emojis have died off too. There's kind of like, there's a standard. I think there's a standard there. Some people still use it. I don't like to use it. We haven't had any issues not using it, so it's been working really fine. And then emojis, I mentioned that one. We don't want to touch on those anymore. There's also a theory that only the first bullet point is actually indexed now, and the rest are just there for the consumer. Again, it's a theory, so it's what we believe based on what we've read from some stuff through Amazon, but it's always gray. It's never like in fact. So we kind of go off of, let's make sure that first bullet point is really driving home the important information, and then the rest is really just there for the consumer. And then if you got something coming in a box or anything like that, like, get very clear on what's coming in, what's not. You don't want to have too much copy, because then they won't read it. And I have so many sellers sometimes who will come to us and say, we get a lot of complaints that they didn't know it didn't come with batteries, but it's clearly written right there in our third bullet point. Be like, yeah, well, I didn't read that.
No one reads that.
Yeah. So what else we have on? And then don'ts. Yeah, all caps, mentioned that one, emojis, symbols, things like that. Shoving keywords in there, that's another one. That's kind of where those big paragraph comes around. The mention of a warranty or guarantee, that one, it's kind of, usually we suggest not to do it, but you can definitely word it correctly and you're usually okay. Just try to dance around the warranty or guarantee option. I don't know, Jordan, do you use those?
No, not really.
Yeah, we've had issues with like Amazon saying like, you can't guarantee anything, blah blah, stuff like that. So because then it's up to Amazon to deal with that.
Yeah.
This was great, by the way. I saw this. This was
yeah. That was me. Yeah. So if you're trying to figure out, hey, is my imagery good, especially specifically your main image, we like to perform what we call the TINDER test, right? So it's just a fun little thing. Just imagine, if your product was on Tinder, would you swipe right? I think that's a great indicator. Sometimes it's so easy to get in your own head, and try to convince yourself that your product photography is great or something like that. So take it around, look at what your competitors are doing, and then just perform the TINDER test, man. Would you swipe right? So a couple examples here, super flat sleeping bag, and then, obviously a very professional sleeping bag.
So we'll let's do the enhanced brand content one, or the A+ content. So I sent out a poll. Would love to know if you have enhanced brand content already. I've heard a lot of things about enhanced brand content. There's been new stuff. Obviously, we mentioned the videos that came out. Those actually aren't in your enhanced brand content. They're in the image listing, but it's in the enhanced brand content area, so it is what it is. But let us know if you have it already, or if you like the one you have, or if you don't like it, or anything like that. We'll kind of chime in a little bit there. But they added alt text now. That is actually being indexed. Amazon came out, and that was pretty straightforward, that they said, yes, in fact, this is being indexed. For those of you who don't know what alt text is or how to do it, it's not like shoving keywords in there. It's definitely not another area for you to place keywords. What it's meant for, if you picture it as, pretend that a blind person is trying to look at this and someone has to describe it to them. That is what alt text is for. That's how it gets indexed. If you do it appropriately, it can actually really help in terms of being indexed. But keyword stuffing it isn't going to help. So you want it to be descriptive and explain what's in the picture. So let's end this poll. So 40% say yes, and it's great, good. Yes, and 20% yes, but it's not working. So that's that would tell me that your conversion rate has fallen, or it's still the same. or say obviously sales haven't gone up, which means your conversion rate hasn't moved. 33% no, but I'd like to. Great, we'll talk later. And then 0% said no and I don't want to, which is good. And then 7% said you don't have brand registry. So that 7%, go get your brand registered if you can.
Start the process today.
Definitely a big one, especially if you can't get brand registry. If you don't have your brand registry, enhanced brand content's awesome. Headline ads do fantastic if you do them right. But the biggest thing is you can block people out of your listings. You don't want to get your listing hijacked, and it's really hard to kick people out unless you have brand registry. But so the enhanced brand content, why does it help? What is it there for? What does it do? So I mentioned earlier, people come to your list. So go through the buying process. Like watch an average consumer shop. Like if you ever need something and you're like, oh, you know what, I need a new stapler. Instead of you going on your phone and ordering, a new stapler yourself on Amazon, give it to someone who's not in your industry. Watch what they do. They're going to shop. They're going to type in stapler. They're going to look at the pictures of the top one. They're going to read the title really quick, and they're going to go, that sounds right. And they're going to click on it. They're going to look at the pictures. They're going to ignore the bullet points and everything else. They're probably not even going to look at them. And they start scrolling down because they want to know, what are the reviews on this stapler? Does it break a lot? Blah, blah. What are the top best reviews? What are the worst ones? And go from there. The reason enhanced brand content helps is because as they're scrolling down to go look at those reviews, you are now providing them with this custom designed, beautiful looking imagery, graphic design heavy area of more information about your product. So I grabbed some examples of stuff we did. Big thing that you got to make sure you do on these is make sure they're mobile friendly. So if you haven't used these before, or if you have, you already know they're modules, right? So you have there's a big horizontal one, then you have the boxes one. If you do the horizontal one, you have a little text in there. It doesn't have the option to expand or anything like that on your mobile. So you got to break up the important information that you need to write a little more about. You got to put those in modules so that it's as mobile friendly as possible. So some of these were, like the one in the middle, Drinkapalooza, really fun game, by the way. But this was one we did a while ago. Incredibly heavily graphic designed. That's what we see always works best because it's mostly images. If you get a lot of content in there and you have one little picture and then a paragraph, no one's reading that stuff. So I'd be interested to see that 20% that said, yes, they have it, but it's not working. Look at how much content you have versus how much imagery you have. And that may actually tell you that could potentially be your problem there. More lifestyle shots, we touched on that one. More infographics and call outs and things like that. It's a really great area for you to you basically have freedom for the most part in this whole space. This one's yours on.
Perfect. Yeah, so just a couple more things to touch on. So you can almost think of EBC, and not entirely, there are definitely differences, but almost like a homepage on a website, right? So having a value prop kind of at the top, and when we test this, not every time do we start that way, but here with Purple Mattress, who's one of our clients, we have the immediate call out to their value prop, which is perfect spinal alignment on both your back end side, and that's proved to work really well. And then the other thing is educate and show the desired end result, right? So before after works really well, as you can see in that little module there with the teeth whitening kit. And then just touching again on design with mobile in mind. There are a lot of modules, unfortunately, and a lot of them are usually the more design-centric modules that just when they shrink down to mobile, they look terrible. So we've tested all of these modules, and that's just one thing that you're going to want to do. So to test your EBC, check to see how it looks in mobile. Look at some other examples that you just find from competitors or products that you like that you think their EBC looks really well, and make sure you look at it on mobile, because again, so many shoppers are on there either purchasing the majority on mobile or they're starting on mobile, like Andrew mentioned earlier. So just make sure you know which modules are going to actually expand and minimize and look good on desktop and mobile. And then EBC is great to tell your brand story, right? Obviously not necessarily in words, but in using a lot of imagery and things like that to really solidify your brand on Amazon. So just a couple more things there.
Yeah, if you look at the fact of like the capabilities of the Amazon storefront that you have now, the capabilities you have of enhanced brand content, the fact that Amazon's almost forcing you to put your brand first on their titles now, like Amazon is getting so brand heavy and
Hmm.
so brand centric because reality, what I think they're trying to do is kick out a lot of these smaller sellers that are just flooding Amazon with bad product that breaks, conveniently the day after you write a review. Like it's becoming, it's hard to find the good products now than it was before. I find Amazon for certain products, it's almost like a glorified flea market in certain cases, depending on what products you're going after.
Yeah.
So having enhanced brand content, doing great images, having a storefront, really writing for the consumer, stuff like that really will differentiate you from, the issues of all these smaller sellers that come in with product that they found like, at their neighbor's house kind of thing. So it's definitely a big branding play now. We see that the most successful sellers, the really big guys like the eight figures, the way up there, they are big sellers on Amazon because they're such big sellers off Amazon because they have
Yep.
such a big brand. There's not a lot of people that do eight figures and higher and are only on Amazon and aren't anywhere else. If you want to be successful on Amazon, like really successful, you have to be successful everywhere else, or at least try. We have a lot of sellers that
Yeah.
do really well on Amazon and have their own store, but just redirect everyone to Amazon. They don't even bother like with their own storefront because, like me, they don't want to deal with operations. So they just send it off and FBA it there. So, you really have to do what you can off Amazon to help your on Amazon presence. But if you're on Amazon, you have a bad listing and you're sending off traffic, that's not going to help either. So this is really like the bread and butter of your business is where you start is right here on the listing, and this is really how enhanced brand content can help.
Right.
Um,
And
is
if you look at, I mean, even the evolution of, Google, right? When keyword stuffing worked and that's what everybody was doing. And, that might have worked, on Amazon 4 or 5 plus years ago. But you're 100% right. Like Amazon is absolutely 100% rewarding companies that are building a brand and building a great customer experience within their Amazon listings. And so that's what you have to do. The sellers that do that are going to be the ones that have long-term sustainability, and that with all the changes that come in Amazon, they're not gonna dip with those changes. They're just going to keep growing.
Yeah. Stuff not to do. I mentioned, don't have a ton of copy, don't have information redirecting to your site. No matter how much you want to keep the customer, Amazon will never let you. Poor quality imagery, that one's obvious. Poor grammar, I had to throw that one in there. Random stock photos is always my favorite because I know a lot of people who really want lifestyle images but don't want to pay to have like a model them or have someone Photoshop the product in. So instead, what they do is like, oh, my product is great for business people, so I'm gonna go to Shutterstock and get the top 3 business people images and just put them in my enhanced brand content. Like that is when you have that stuff in there, even the average consumer knows like that's a stock photo. That was a
You
lazy
can tell.
move.
Yeah.
Like I'm not doing that. So
Yeah.
don't even bother. You're probably better off like just taking a picture, not having another picture of the product or something like that than having like a random stock photo there.
Yep.
Um, so that was it, top to bottom.
Boom.
I think we hit it all. So if anyone's got questions, comments, anything like that, start sending them in. We'll see if we can get to them. I did have one volunteer for us to dig apart a listing, but
Perfect.
I think we're pushing time a little bit here. But let's see what we can do.
Okay.
But I'll let's pull it up. I'll make it super quick. So I won't say your last name, but Jonathan allowed us to dig into his listing. So we can touch on. Why don't we, just for the sake of time, real quick, Jordan? Why don't you tell them about what you got here too?
Yeah. So, if anyone's looking to just kind of gain some insight into why you're losing customers, diagnose maybe why your conversion isn't doing well or why you're not getting a lot of traffic to your site, for anyone on this webinar, we'll offer a free listing analysis and basically hop on a phone with one of our Amazon experts, and when we'll just, walk through the listing and figure out, what's going on, and you'll walk away with some actionable insights and things to do better. So
Yeah, I got the same thing. So give me a call. Fill out this thing, sellerschoice.agency/giveaway. I gated it so that it's just for you guys. So password Amazon listings. We'll hop on a call. I will dig through your listing with you. And we're going to do one for Jonathan right now too. But we're going to do that live. And then also I have an ebook. We put one together for listing optimization. So almost everything we went through is there. It's not gated, nothing like that. You just go there, it'll start downloading. So it's a bit.ly/listing ebook. That's all yours. I will also have that in the email in case you guys don't feel like typing that in. But all right, so we're going to do this live real quick, and we're going to dig through Jonathan's Amazon listing here. So Jonathan, thank you for letting us do this. Let's see how this goes. All right, so be a good time for my Wi-Fi to work a little bit faster. But so we're going to dig through this listing. We're going to see what our immediate thoughts are here. Okay, so I'm going to be really honest. I feel like Jonathan pulled a prank on us. And that's a fantastic prank. And if it's not a prank and this is your listing, I'm sorry for that comment. But so you know what? I don't care. We're still going to dig through this thing. So right off the top, one image. I imagine these don't ship well. So even though I like the limited title, it shouldn't be that limited. And I like limited bullet points. It definitely shouldn't be that limited. You know what? I'll give this listing credit though. The image is pretty high quality for the most part. You need more. You need call outs. You need lifestyle photos, like have someone putting this thing on a pizza or something. But I love that you did this. So, this is my little cheat sheet thing here. And then, so this is what I was talking about like product description. You have one line here, like I would have missed this, like right off the bat. I would have just, I would have never seen this as I was a consumer, which obviously means there is no enhanced brand content. I really appreciate the prank. I really feel like this was a prank. If it's not, call me, and I'm really sorry for calling you out. But one image after we just went through, Jonathan, come on, you know better. But you know what? It was good. Big thank you to everyone who joined us today. Actually, you know what, Jonathan? Jordan, you got any notes on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing we might have missed is just get some more reviews. Do everything you can to get an email follow up and reach out to an email list you might have that's about your product, whatever. But get some reviews.
Yeah, you got one though. Apparently, they're good sardines.
That's a 5-star. Yeah. Hey, I might just go buy them, give them a try.
No, right? I think we're gonna have a big influx of this guy. This guy is just gonna have a random amount of a lot of sales. But you know what? All right, because I think I got a joke one. I hope this one's not a joke. I got one more. I'm gonna do one more for you guys, just because this is kind of fun. So we'll dig through this one. I hope it's real. And then we're gonna call it, just so I'm not taking up everyone's day. Like, okay, here we go. Thank you for actually doing this. So, Jordan, I kind of took the lead on the last one. You wanna take the lead on this one?
Yeah. So this is Valley Forge. What's up, Valley Forge? I don't know who's on, but this is actually one of our clients. So this is interesting.
Hi, Lauren. Oh, this is one of your clients?
Yeah, it is.
So I can't comment on it then.
So yeah, so I mean, just complete transparency. You and I have a little bit of different mindsets when it comes to a couple of things that we talked about. So with us, because we're of the mindset, and with our relationship with Amazon, we again, they're always vague, right? But we've been told that basically content is eventually going to almost die out, right? Like nobody's reading it, they know that. And so we essentially use content and the bullet points as pretty much just an optimization tool for SEO. So we actually do maximize bullet points. We have really good content writers that we don't keyword stuff. We write to the consumer definitely, but we mix in keywords within that sounds good. Expounds on the bullet points, and we just like to get as much as we can on the front end while still including and enhancing the customer experience. So variations are good here. Could use some more lifestyle images, definitely. There we go. Okay, we got video. But yeah, I mean, title looks good. Lots of reviews.
Got ABC in here, nice.
Yeah, so here's EBC. So again, modules, unfortunately, that look good on mobile are usually a little bit more text oriented. We're trying to experiment with some more ways to kind of limit the text, because I 100% agree with you, Andrew, that the more visual you can get, the better that's going to convert.
Nice. Reviews are definitely good.
Yeah.
Oh, you have, so this is the from the manufacturer area, which most people don't have. Of course, Valley Forge, I'm sure you guys obviously do. This is basically like you have the ability to have EBC as well as the product description. So that's kind of why you got both here. Yep. But otherwise, usually it replaces it. Yeah, your reviews are good. Nice. Yeah, my Wi-Fi is not helping out today, but that was fun. Never got to do that live before. That was a good time. So thank you everyone for joining us. Like I mentioned, I'll try to get out the slides shortly here after the webinar. I'll email them out. We'll have a video up in the next couple of days or so. Thank you everyone for joining us. Obviously reach out to myself or Jordan if you guys have any questions. Bring this guy back up. Yeah, thanks for joining us. Good luck out there, Q4. You got this.
Go and kill it.
Thanks, Jordan. Have a good one.
Yeah, thank you.